Hello, I'm John Ryan.
And I'm JD Orr, and this is the Handball Tryout or Tryout Handball podcast, a U.S. handball talk.
All right. I see what you did there, JD. I guess you were listening in on the board meeting today.
I was not. I was out this weekend. I was getting caught up at work, so I wasn't able to tune in. But I know that there was a tryout, or for some people, a tryout handball this past weekend in California.
Well, the thing they were talking about at the board meeting today is they're actually going to have a website, tryhandball.com, for the Olympics.
Okay.
So that's why I thought that's why I thought you were going there.
Oh
So
no, I just could for it's always just foretelling the future a little bit. But no, that's good. Finally have a net to catch all these,
yeah,
Olympic fish, maybe.
conceptually, and I'm not sure. I guess it's more of a internet strategic thing. I think we would probably be better off sending as many people as possible to USATeamHandball.org, but I could be wrong there. Try handball is a simpler URL, but then when you separate, you bifurcate
Yep.
your total there. So yeah, not worth debating, but maybe we'll
I,
debate
I
that as
I'll,
part as the
I'll make
there's
one quick note on it, just because when I first started playing handball, obviously when you started and when I started, is two different ages of technology and things like that.
same time.
But I had Googled handball and never saw anything related to you. I did not know there was a national organization that even existed, and so I just started it with my friends and it's kind of stumbled into where we got. So I'm not saying that it's probably good to have two separate paths, but it depends on what the algorithm on the internet search
Yeah,
comes
I
people.
think handball, if you type it in the US, I haven't checked in a while. I used to check it regularly when I was more engaged with my
Yep,
website trying to turn it into a money making operation. I was
yep,
very much
yep.
into the SEO and how to get higher up on lists. But I think USA Team Handball comes up first, but I could be wrong.
Okay, well,
But who knows? Maybe
yep.
maybe maybe try handball will come up there as well. Uh, Fired up tomorrow. Big day.
Euros start. A lot of handball coming down the pipe here for all those that are listening. EHF 2024 Euros are kicking off with is the big outdoor game or outdoor indoor, I guess the soccer stadium game is that I think Saturday.
No, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
France and Macedonia throw off at noon U.S. Eastern time, and then the big game is at 2:45 Eastern time between Germany and Switzerland. I took a flyer on Switzerland to win outright, but
ooh,
we'll see what happens.
ooh, okay. So
But
is Andy Schmidt still playing?
he is
I
still
didn't.
playing,
Okay.
and I think playing in Switzerland has probably helped his old body
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Stay
He also plays in
stay in.
European League. They're in the European League, so
Okay.
I've seen him play a few times. I said, why is the Switzerland team doing a little bit better? Oh, okay, Andy Schmidt's playing.
There's a secret weapon.
They've got a decent side. Their starting seven is good. So, but they just lack depth. But it'll be interesting.
Okay.
Um, but definitely, I was working on a summary of the EHF Euro, where to watch, stream, get your information. Um, right now, it should probably be on EHF TV if they follow. The EHF is a little less strict on their streaming to smaller markets. If the IHF uh, whatever arrangement they had with ESPN, you had to use VPN to watch other games. Um, yeah, and I already had ESPN, so I was watching anyway. I could have watched every game on VPN if I wanted to. Um, it says on the EHF article that Be In Sport, my favorite channel, not uh,
Hmm.
is is contracted for the rights with the US.
Of
Now,
course.
whether that means it's going to be geo blocked in the HFTV, I sure hope not. But if it is, you're going to want to get VPN
Yeah.
um, big time.
It's just a
um,
frustrating situation because even when I've gone to like bars, like when this has happened in the past and it's been on being I've gone to like B Dubs or something like that and tried to tell them that hey, it should be on BN Sports and they'll turn it on, nothing's there, and I'm like I give up, you
you
know.
know, we could do a series of topics on TV. And
Yep,
FYI, getting handball on TV is the most important thing. It's not
number
one
one.
task of many. It is the most important thing. It is. Okay.
And
But nobody cares but you and me and
yep,
50 other people because we're the only ones that are going to put the effort to watch it. It is the most important thing for developing handball in this country. I am convinced of that. But what do I know? I'm just some
yep,
guy with a website with a
yep,
bunch of ideas. So, anyway, that's enough venting. Let's go to the
yep.
actual topic that we plan to talk. And let me find the share screen.
Well, I'll remind you to
Uh,
take it off share screen this time when we're done
it's a
sharing.
beautiful picture of our junior national team. Oh, I got to click share. All right. Uh, so this was what was posted on social media channels um, a few days ago about the junior national team having a training camp in Montpellier this March. Nice picture of our team there and how to go to it. And then one of our top stateside players to play on a junior national team, tweets down below. That's Aaron Ham, North Carolina
Yep.
graduate, now coaches for them. Uh, need to get something in the U.S. Can't expect U21 guys in America to shell out $800 for a camp. And basically, if you open the news item, it talks about um, uh, you have to get there on your own. I think there's a
Yep.
€150 participation fee, which is
Oh, jeez.
pretty reasonable. You know, for I'm assuming lodging, food, training.
I guess I wouldn't assume anything on that front. When I tried out at Colorado Springs, it was $45, and that was for 2 days. Didn't include anything. Didn't even get a T-shirt. Didn't There was nothing. So I stayed on the floor of somebody's hotel, and I walked from the hotel to the gym. I walked from the airport, from Colorado Springs Airport to the hotel because I didn't want to rent a car. I wasn't old enough to rent a car, and yeah, so that's another story. But I would not assume anything here. So
Well, it's another story, but it's relevant. And you were asking me what's
yeah,
with the jersey here. Let's see if I can get it all in there. This is a
yeah,
vintage jersey, and it's from a U.S. Olympic festival. The West team wore red. It still fits. I remember
yeah.
these being a lot looser though.
A couple years might
But
do that.
but um, yeah, we'll get into that.
Yep,
Uh,
yep,
this I have a tryout story of my own that I was gonna share. Um, but I guess I can go off the share screen now.
yeah,
Stop the share. Um, I guess the big issue is here, and it delves into multiple topics, and it's easy to get distracted on each of the issues surrounding the makeup of our current teams with uh, Americans that by and large have grown up in Europe, a few other countries, but outside of Europe, but mostly Europe,
hmm,
and Americans learn the sport in this country and how we field teams and how we train those teams and how we have tryouts for those teams.
yep,
Um, it weighs on a lot of different uh, issues and perspectives for the people involved. Um, just trying to set the table there. I mean, what are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
yeah. I think it's. I feel like and Aaron and I have gone pretty deep into this personally with trying to get funding to set up a team that would try to help grow and bolster development here stateside. And I think it's kind of created a bit of a tension between guys, as well as just to face the reality of, hey, if I'm not in Europe, then basically I don't have a chance of making this team. And if now we have something like this where the expectations are, oh, hey, if you want to try out for Team USA, you actually have to go to Europe. um, our sport is obviously very dominated in Europe. I do think it's a bit of a frustrating point for people outside the handball bubble that might want to, tap into it, especially here coming off the Olympics, which is it'll be our biggest exposure every 4 years. And when someone might see, okay, hey, when's the next tryout? Oh, I have to go to France, not to Chicago or New York or Miami or LA or wherever it may be. I have to fly to another country. Um, it's a bit frustrating. And I think the bigger part for me is that I've been told in the past that our junior team it's to identify players for our senior team. It's a fair, development model. Whatever you want to do with it. I think the hard part is, as we've discussed previously, is that our senior team is pretty well locked in for quite some time, and there's a handful of guys that are on that junior team that could push their way into roster spots and definitely be backups and things like that. But otherwise, we know who we have. There's no further identification that really needs to be done. They're playing on a regular basis in Europe. So that's kind of where I get a little frustrated. Is it's cool to give them an opportunity, but I don't think it says anything. It's the most anti-American thing to have a tryout for America in another country. So
Yeah. Well, you know, I, and that's perspective of someone living stateside in the United States, which is most of the people that are
yep,
American. A lot more people than you think live
yep.
outside this country. I did a deep dive into trying to figure out how many Americans lived overseas. I couldn't get a straight answer on the internet, but it's millions,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
millions. It's a good sized state, bigger than quite a few of the states that we have.
Yep.
Now, the thing is they're all geographically dispersed. Um, Folks that have grown up stateside, and I would guess even people, even Americans that live overseas, would like to see handball more developed in the U.S. But our in the stateside states of the U.S.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's not our current reality.
Nope.
And I I want to take a little bit of a sidetrack because this always it always relates to a little bit of attention, and people like to feel like, well, if we just don't talk about it, or if we just
It'll
pretend
just
like
go
we're
away.
all Americans,
Yep.
it's all good. And I've thought a lot about this, and it is funny because I've pissed off all the dual citizens at one point, and
Yep.
I pissed off all the Americans in the U.S. at another point. It's
Everybody
like
hates John. It's fair.
everybody hates me, you know. But one of the things I the way I think I've captured this, and I'm going to go through a little series of questions with you.
Yep.
Um, is you connect with people that you have things in common with, and being in the Air Force, you know, all throughout my career, I was constantly thrown in with different people from different parts of the United States and different backgrounds, different accents, um, and I always had a I always had a connection with people that I have in common. And I'll take you and me for example. We're
Hmm.
both from the Midwest. All right. Our states have Big Ten schools in them.
Yep. Yep. Corn fed.
Um,
That's the key.
I grew up on a farm, a small town. I was in Ohio. I've been through Ohio a few times.
Yep.
Ohio is Iowa with Cincinnati, Cleveland, and
And
Columbus.
Columbus. Yep.
And Columbus is bigger than Des Moines, I suspect. So
Columbus is bigger than Cleveland and Cincinnati, for just putting that out there.
wow, the metropolitan areas are probably
Yep.
a little bit different, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, add Ankeny and West Des Moines. Des Moines up there too, buddy. Uh,
Sioux
so
Falls or Cedar Rapids, Anyways, continue.
Dubuque, Des Moines, Davenport, Mason City. You ought to give Iowa a try. That's the Music Man
So,
for.
okay.
See, Ohio
Yeah.
doesn't have its own
We
musical
don't
like
have we don't
Oklahoma
have
and
a
Iowa.
musical. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we're both engineers,
Yep.
so that's a connectivity. But like if I ever met somebody else from Iowa, wherever I was at, it was an instant connection with that person that I identified with. If they grew up on a farm, they'd be
Boom.
like my buddies for life,
Yep.
because there's so few people that grew up on a farm anymore. Um, I meet people from overseas now that I lived in France for 5 years. I have a connection with them. Um, but anytime I was thrown into a group of people, you might think that you have something in common with the guy from Iowa, but after you get to know people, you might find out that actually the guy from Florida is more of a buddy for me than this guy who grew up 50 miles from where I grew up. He's kind of an asshole. I don't like him, or whatever. And it's the
Yep.
same way with teams. I remember like the New York guys, that played for Garden City, which morphed into Nyack. I would like hear those guys talk, and I'm like, on who are these people?
Hmm.
It's you know, but you build a rapport, and everybody works together. But Djokovic and Schneeberger were Air Force Academy grads, so I looked up to them because I was an Air Force Academy grad. So you build connections with people, and that's true for anybody and any American wherever they grew up. They're gonna identify. African Americans are gonna identify with African Americans, but you might find out that you're actually a better buddy with
Yep.
somebody after a while once you get to know them because you have the same likes, dislikes. It's the same way with our current national team. We have a lot of people that played a sport in college, and after college they became national team, and they went through a program of a residency program. That's the way they did it. They are going to identify with Ty Reed and Drew Donlin more than they're going to identify with the Hooter brothers
Hmm.
and Abu Fafana.
Yep.
But there's nothing wrong with that, and we're all on the same team. We all work together. And it's the same thing. Take the Edwards brothers in Hungary. Benjamin and
Hmm.
his older brother plays wing. If they don't have role models like the Hooter brothers, that they can go, wow, look at these guys. They're like leading the senior national team. Maybe, we're going to do that in a few years. We're going to be the Edwards brothers, just like what the Hooter brothers are. So people have role models. They go through. They have shared experiences, and they value those shared experiences, and that's okay. That's
Yep.
okay. It's understandable for people to see a training camp where a bunch of Americans living in Europe are going to get together, and they've all played longer, and the bulk of them are going to make the team. And we're going to cheer for that team, but we're still going to be kind of mad that
Yep.
nobody that I identify with is probably
It's
going to make
on
that
that
team.
team. Yep.
Just a few guys. All right. My monologue is over.
Yep.
Time for you to agree with me.
I will agree to some extent, but I'll also add a couple tweaks. So, it's one thing that Robert and I have discussed quite a bit since he took over is having training camps and identification process, here stateside, specifically stateside. And that was, he took over in 2017, I believe, and we have
2019.
yet to 2019. Okay. All right. Yes. Sorry. Yep. 2019. And we have yet to have any sort of identification training camp where he's been present with, our domestic athletes here. And so it's one of those things that, to Aaron's point about, I'm fine. You can have a training camp for the Euro-based Americans. That's fine. But I shouldn't expect all of the people that want to go to that tryout to attend there, because it's not feasible, when I look at a college kid, because this is, again, junior national team focused. So you're talking college, maybe some high school kids. Are they in a financial situation where they can skip school for, what is it? Was it 10 days? I think it was a week.
Yeah,
Um,
the first thing I did when I checked it, I wonder if that's West Point spring break. No,
it's our spring
it's an
break, so
international week.
yeah.
That's why it's where it's at.
But like something like this would be very frustrating for me, because Montpellier was a city that we were considering for our spring break trip. So it's like I could have just brought my whole handball team, to said no, not that it was very feasible maybe to accommodate them, but we could have gone easily to Montpellier. We were very close to going to Barcelona, which is not a terribly far drive either. So it's like, you know, that could have been an opportunity for some of our guys to get a real firsthand taste of what it's like with the American guys in Europe. But these things aren't planned out well far in advance. They're just kind of thrown together at the last minute, saying, "Hey, we'll see what sticks, see who can show up." Because to Aaron's point, trying to book a flight right now to get there at this stage of the game, you're talking 3 months. You're not going to get a great price, and so it's an expensive trip.
You won't do too bad, but
Again, for a college kid, last minute, trying to coordinate things, and then for what? So that's the next point: is what am I going to get out of this? So I'll pass it
yeah, and
back to
it's
you.
yeah, we talked they talked about this a little bit at the board meeting. Mark Ortega, and they were talking about the training camp that they had in Los Angeles,
Hmm.
um, and they had like 30 people attend. They said there was one third to one fourth new people, so like 7 to 10 basically new people. Um, and I think that they've got people that they already want to talk with, for the beach team.
Good.
But it really wasn't said, but I'd be surprised if there's any standout that's, got, maybe somebody can make the U for junior team,
Hmm.
maybe. Because we only have so many dual citizens that can be put on the roster. But right now we don't have the structures in place, certainly at the youth level, to uh, we don't have a critical mass, and we're probably not getting the best athletes available to play at those ages that are playing other sports.
Yep.
So be kind of guys like you, like we need to
Yep.
fill out this roster.
Let's call up random
This
dude in
guy
Ohio.
flew all the way to Colorado Springs. We
Yep.
don't have anybody else. We'll give him a shot. We'll put him on the
And
team.
that's where I've ridden that train for the last decade, just being the guy that's available, and it's taken me all over the world. So, it's very unfortunate for USA Handball, but very fortunate for me.
Yeah. And the problem, as I see it, is we don't have a structure in place domestically for you can have a camp, but that was the question Mark asked. What's the point if there's no real follow-on plan?
Yep. Where are they
Or
going
if
to
you're going to
go?
have camps, training camp, ID camps, are you going to get together every 3 months? That's 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 not a plan. That's kind
That's
of doing
just,
something to say we're doing something.
yep.
Checking the box, and um, we don't have the structures in place really for a European style camp. If you have an all comers tryout camp, by definition, you know, I mean, you don't have the structures in place.
Yeah,
Imagine if the German national team had a
just
all comers
put them.
tryout.
Yeah, you'd be
You know,
getting God
it,
knows homeless guy coming off the street trying to strap up and get ready to go.
you, of course, you can say you never know. You know who's going to
Yep.
come off the street and show up, and you know what they did that movie with the high school coach that you know his arm got better and all of a sudden he could throw hard again and he actually made the
Oh
major
yeah,
leagues. He
Dennis
showed
Quaid,
up at one
the
of those all
rookie.
comer camps where people are like
Yep.
going, "The hell here," you know, or they're clocking his
Yep.
his fastball. Um, so you get those one it's in the blue moon stories, and people
I don't remember it
carry that
forever, but
through.
I think realistically, a lot of these camps are the same kind of guys that keep getting told no, that keep coming back, trying to get that yes. And, at this point, we're stringing them along and,
And this
it's,
this is so I'm we talked about this jersey. This is a U.S. West Festival jersey, um, and I had totally forgotten about. You get old and you forget your initial handball journeys. But when I was a senior at the Air Force Academy, I tried out for the North team and I didn't make it, or they pretty much already had their players already decided. And I said, like, well, what the hell? I'm getting stationed in California. I can try out for
yeah,
the West team. And I saw that there was a tryout for the West team, and I flew to San Francisco and tried out. And it was like a gym there, and I think there was like maybe 10 people there, so we couldn't
yep,
even scrimmage. And just like the North team, they had already had picked their guys, so it was a wasted trip for me. And plane fares were a little bit more expensive back in the day,
yeah,
not
not as
even
many of those
factoring
going
in
around.
inflation. So, but you know what? This was this was it was a little bit of a reach for me, but I wasn't trying out for the national team. I was
You're
trying out
just,
for a regional team, which had many newcomers on it mixed with old comers. And I think that year, 87, you know what? They probably didn't have any Olympians playing that year because the Olympians probably were, training elsewhere.
hmm
I don't know that for a fact. I wasn't there.
yeah,
Um, but at least they had, the Federation had more money at that time. Good Lord, the Olympic festivals. I mean, this is kind of a crappy shirt, that's like 30 years old. It's probably
yep,
from my 93 or 94 festival, but all bought and paid for, 2 weeks of training for 60 athletes. So I look at the guys going to that camp. That's the sort of camp that they should have, and it should be a regional thing, and
yep,
it should be a stepping stone because most everybody is not ready to go straight to the national team.
right,
Okay, good Lord, that should not be the case. You should not, unless like back in the day where we had the residency program, where it was truly a more of a combine test to assess somebody to join a program where they were going to train for a couple of years,
right,
you
right. It's
know.
still a stepping stone, it's just,
But it was a logical stepping stone.
yeah,
Making a West regional team or a Northeast or South regional team was a logical stepping stone for everyone in those areas. And we don't have that. We don't have that logical stepping stone right now. We go
right,
straight to the national team. We don't have places to train people. So I mean, if those things don't exist, what are we doing?
yep. And you're turning away athletes left and right. I've had plenty of guys come through the Armada that have been post college. They were, you know, anywhere from D1 to D3 college athletes. They're picking up the sport for the first time. Very, very good athletes, and they're, being a college athlete, they're used to, the grind. They want to, work hard. They want to. Their goal is to make the national team. And when I tell them, they're like, when's the next tryout? Where's the camp? Where do I need to move to get better? I'm like, you got to go to Europe. There's nothing else here. They're like, but there's no like training center in Colorado Springs or something like that. Like that's the USOPC, that's the Olympic Training Center, but there's nothing for handball there. And so it's just kind of one of those things that they've asked me many times, like, why do we not have, regional development centers that can be a focused area where people can come and grow their skills. And then if they get identified, they can go on to the next level. I'm like, look, it's a great point and something to think about. But right now, to your point, we don't have the infrastructure. Nobody's, done much. Mark's got his eye handball situation right now, which is an interesting take on that. So,
I think it's an idea worth exploring. It needs more flesh on the bones. It'll probably need some resources. And this is where we actually have unintended consequences, which is the IHF trophy events and the expansion of the youth and junior teams to 32 teams. On the
mhm,
surface, those seem like great initiatives. I tell you, who all likes them? Coaches like them. The
yeah,
athletes that make the teams like them.
yep,
Um, I think the IHF likes it because it, it's a visible demonstration
attempted,
of something
yeah,
being done,
mhm,
and all those minor federations like it because they all
more
get
exposure.
more exposure. And I'm not going to say nothing comes for those. We use it to essentially right now to is a development for our senior teams to mostly to weed out what Europeans are good and what aren't, and which ones are just what happens typically for our youth and junior teams. It's a
Um,
composite of athletes who there's a couple that are actually really good,
yep,
and then there's a whole bunch that are good. They know how to play the game, and especially when they get to go play against Norca competition, they can
hmm
clean house. You know, be like back in the day before Europeans learned how to play basketball. Joe Schmo could go over there and be the star. I mean,
it's
I
kicking
even
and
had
kicking and
that a little
screaming.
bit.
Yeah,
Um,
pass it
so
to the Italians.
so back in the day, we sent a few teams over there entirely composed of stateside athletes, and they got waxed by 30, 40 goals.
Hmm.
And that's what would happen today as well. We just have a better identification system for dual citizens. And on the men's side, we've had a
Let
pretty
me
good
stop
run.
you there on
All right,
identification system.
disagreement.
Is it us finding them or them finding us? Because I got a feeling it's a little bit of both, but more heavily on the other, them finding us kind of thing, as we've
It
seen,
is.
and it's gone unanswered at times. So
Well, yeah. Well, and here's a little. This is a sensitive topic,
yes,
especially when we had Auburn. Okay, and it was clear that the talent level at Auburn was not the best. It was pretty clear to me that we had a lot of not international Americans living overseas
yeah,
who were better. But the instance that you start putting all those players on your team, the whole point for Auburn kind of just disappears.
yep,
And there were people that did not want to recognize that reality because of their relationships with the people at Auburn.
yep.
That statement there makes me a real asshole. Okay.
It's just
Sorry.
the reality. It's
It's
unfortunate, but
reality. We're not
so
solving anything here.
no, no, no. But yeah, it's one of those things that um, at you and I think have done a better job in some instances of finding athletes. I know that you've done your due diligence on certain, I'd say, key players that we've lost to other nations throughout the years here, but it's one of those things that I, I think we're at the point now where a we have two world championships and Olympics that will get us international attention. And if the plan is to ride the wave of that kind of notoriety from the rest of the global handball world for this to be like, to the Americans in other countries that didn't know we had a team that have been playing handball their whole life, be like, oh, hey, I didn't realize the U.S. had a national team. Maybe I should give them a try. They're at the World Championships. I'm sure there's going to be a floodgate opening up in the next couple of years with people trying to get their hands into these opportunities, just from the sheer fact that we have two auto bids to World Championships and an Olympic.
Yeah. Well, we got a little sidetracked there, but to finish my thought, we got 3 minutes and 40
Mhm.
seconds left. The unintended consequences is we put a lot of effort into these junior and youth teams, and I am not sure that they're actually our future. And the unintended consequence of the IHF trophy, which is mostly paid by the IHF, and the expansion of the tournament fields to allow more teams is we can kind of fake it
Yep.
with the teams that we have. And that wasn't possible before. We couldn't make we had some good players on teams like 6, 7 years ago. We had to beat we also had North and South America. We had to beat
For,
Chile,
yeah. Brazil,
Chile in order to get
Argentina.
there. And that
Yep.
was a tough beat. We almost did once, but you know, we wouldn't
That game
qualify.
was a lot of red cards, but yes. Yep.
We wouldn't qualify, even with our dual citizens. But now with the expansion, we can. So we're spending a lot of energy in that resources, even though part of it's paid by the IHF. Those resources could go into the sorts of things. We couldn't do an Olympic festival like we did in the back in the day, but we could do something similar to it.
Hmm.
Maybe lower rent, and we could be focused on building the structure so that we would develop more players. But now we've got the youth and junior teams, and we've got a lot of people that like say we can be just like a European country. We can have our youth team, and junior teams becoming the future for our senior team. And that's only possible if you have a true pyramid. And we do not have a pyramid. We have a tower.
Yep.
And we are possibly investing a lot of resources on athletes that maybe may or may not have futures.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Guys
was
like
my
you and
point.
Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I think Joey and I are a sales pitch on a handful of weird cases, but it's one of those things that you got to find a way to stir them up and keep them engaged, and that's the hard part.
Well, JD, we only got a minute left.
Yep.
And I apologize we didn't solve this. We'll have to think about uh, how we next attack this. I,
Yeah,
I, I
I think these conversations help other people get thinking about it too and stir up conversations because, like you said, put comments, questions, follow up ideas, stuff for us to feed for the fodder.
maybe people with decision making authority will listen to us and think, oh, maybe there's a point to this. Maybe.
Who
All
knows?
right.
So until next time,
Until next time. Hey, for JD Orr, I'm John Ryan. Thanks again for listening.
ciao.